Yes, thank you for asking that question, because I do feel as if I might have been looked upon as a bit of a con man. What happened, indeed, was that a great friend of mine called Peter Brown, who is the director of photography and makes all the films, totally at his own expense, for Sea Shepherd. Sea Shepherd is an organization which tries to control the devastation that's happening to some of our environments, and also goes out to rescue animals, and particularly marine animals. For instance, they have been responsible for doing a lot of the work that Greenpeace get the publicity for, but they go out and actually do it. They go and they cut the Japanese nets. They prevent them killing porpoise and dolphin. They have tackled the Japanese whalers and so on. And when the Gulf War was at its worst, and we had that diabolical oil spill, which was affecting so much marine life in the Gulf, the head of Sea Shepherd, a delightful man called Paul Watson, decided that he would go off in Sea Shepherd 2, which is a comparatively small boat, and sail through the Panama Canal and go into Key West here in Florida, and then from there take off to the Gulf. And he was due to leave on February the 4th. Now, because of the publicity they'd had over this oil slick, all the major oil conglomerates promised that they would contribute vast sums of money to this project to go there. Not only were they going to try and rescue as many marine animals and birds as possible, but they were also going to film it, and Peter was going to be with them. Peter Brown, my friend, he was going to be with them at totally his own cost, and the whole crew of this were scientists of various kinds, marine experts of various kinds, who were all volunteers that were not being paid for it. And they were going to go there to make a documentary film which they hoped would be shown on television and publicize the awful dilemma of this oil slick, and to try and raise money for it. They set off on February the 4th from San Diego, and they went through the canal. They got into Key West, where on the way they had tackled some Mexican fishermen who were killing porpoise and stopped them doing it. Then they got into Key West, and they holed up there while they were waiting for the money to come through. Now, I have recorded, obviously gratis, a message on a 900 number, and it was published, thanks to Stephanie Wiltse, Jean Cloud, and people like that, in all their various magazines. And hopefully it was going to, if people phoned into this 900 number, they would hear me telling them about this Sea Shepherd venture and what we were trying to do, and at the same time they would automatically donate $10 by phoning this 900 number. I had a sad letter from Peter. They did leave on the 4th of February, and they did hole up at Key West, but no money came through from the oil conglomerates. They all reneged on it. They decided that no longer was the oil slick the predominant news, that the troops were coming home, and there was euphoria about that. The war was over. There was the Kurdish problem to think about, and people had totally forgotten about these animals and the oil slick. So nothing happened they spent $8,000 in advertising this particular campaign, and Peter had to refinance his house in order to do this. And they got, from the whole of America, they got 36 calls to the 900 number, which means if everybody contributed, it was $360. So they're still sitting there in Key West, waiting for some money to try and at least go over there now, and it's a bit late to rescue the birds. Most of those have been killed already. But at least to take photographs of it all, take a film of it all, and hopefully Peter has... he went to Washington last week and try and get official finance and support, but that wasn't forthcoming either. People have forgotten about that oil slick now, and it's still there, unfortunately. But if any of you feel like contributing, I think in some of the fan magazines there's still... But I'm only explaining all this in a rather long-winded way, because I did have letters from some delightful people who are obviously very concerned, but they had accused me of the fact that this was a scam and my name was being used as a scam because the ship hadn't in fact left harbor. It was still there in San Diego, which is not true. It's here in Key West and still waiting for finance to go for the remainder of the trip. But thank you so much for asking that question. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you. Yes, any more questions? Yes, darling. Yes, here it comes. Here is Mike right now.
Hi, I'm Lorraine from Lodi, New Jersey. We were fortunate enough to have Ron for 6 months on Broadway last year. I was wondering if there was any possibility of you coming to Broadway.
There Well, there's always a possibility of coming to Broadway. Broadway is not in a particularly healthy state right now. Certainly not for straight plays, for dramas. I was, in fact, asked to do a play called Shadowland, which was quite successful with Nigel Hawthorne. And I couldn't because it interfered with something else I was doing at the time. It's very sad. I mean, I love the theatre and I love to be in the theatre, but it's such a risky business, People send you a play and you read it and you think, yes, it's got tremendous potential and I am interested in this. So then you work with the author and you iron out the snags, you appoint a director, and you spend several months doing this process. Then you cast it and you take it and you workshop it. And if it's good enough, you then take it on tour. And you maybe tour it for 6 months or something like that, and you bring it into Broadway. And Frank Rich has a dreadful meal that night or argues with his wife before he goes to the theatre. You get a terrible review and it's all over. It's finished. Months and months of hard work and very little money, and it can finish just like that. And that's the unhealthy state, I think, about the Broadway theatre. That the only opinion that matters is the opinion of the New York Times as far as straight drama is concerned. If you get a bad review from the New York drama critic, then the New York Times drama critic, it's all over. Whereas in England we have a much healthier situation. We have 17 national papers in England. We seem to be a nation of, well, I mean, some of them are dreadful rags, but nevertheless, they do carry a theatre critic. So that you can have 9 good reviews and 8 bad ones and still come out on top, with a chance of surviving. But in New York and indeed in Los Angeles, the same thing happens in Los Angeles with Dan Sullivan of the Los Angeles Times. A bad review from either of those gentlemen in either of those cities and you are dead. But yeah, I mean, if I got the right play, I would certainly take a chance and come to Broadway. Thank you.